We've all heard legends about dwarfs. There are various descriptions about these short, supernatural beings throughout history. They can be like this, or even this. But commonly, they are presented as skilled craftsmen. Dwarfs are generally linked to Germanic folklore, but it is in South India which lies an ancient town that is believed to have been created and inhabited by dwarfs from thousands of years ago. The dwarf's town is in Hirabenakal, in the state of Karnataka, India, roughly the midpoint between Mumbai and Bengaluru. The little peaceful village in the Valley of the Dead contains hundreds of stone structures on a hill known as Moya Gudda, which means Hill of the Dwarfs in the local Kannada language. The little stone huts are called Moya Main, or Houses of the Dwarfs. A local legend has it that these houses belong to an extinct dwarf race called the Moya, gifted with supernatural power to work big rocks. These chambers are varied in shape and size. The smaller are 50 to 100 centimeters, whilst the larger ones can measure up to 3 meters. A lot of them are with a narrow, small round porthole, about 15 to 18 centimeters in diameter, giving the appearance of dwellings with windows, which might explain people's associating it with dwarfs. But of course, this is not where dwarfs have lived. Modern archaeology revealed that Hirabenakal is a huge megalithic site. Yes, there was a time in human history where people all over the world seemed to be obsessed with huge stone tombs. You may have heard quite a lot of them, such as the Cairn of Barnezes in France, erected around 4800 BC during the early Neolithic, or the Karnak stones from 4500 BC. The most famous one is arguably Stonehenge, from more than 4,000 years ago. They are referred to as megaliths, a word first used in 1849 by the British antiquarian Algernon Hubbard in reference to Stonehenge, derived from ancient Greek words mega for great and lithos for stone. It seems that people of that time did believe that size matters. Archaeologists have different opinions about when Hirabenakal was built, but they agree that it is significantly younger than all these sites mentioned above, dated back to the first millennium before Common Era, time corresponding to Iron Age in this part of India. The megaliths in Hirabenakal are standing on a mound for more than 2,500 years. Some other certified sources suggest other various dates, with the age of this site ranging from being built sometime between 1200 BC to 200 BC. But the general consensus among archaeologists is that it is roughly 2,500 years old. Several features are unique to the Hirabenakal megalithic site. To begin with, the site is enormous, spreading on a surface of nearly 20 hectares on the hill. Furthermore, it seems to have a certain internal organization. The more than 400 funeral chambers buried or semi-excavated, known as dolmens, form a circular layout in an east-west orientation and can be classified into 3 clusters: the Western Group, Central Group, and the Eastern Group. The later 2 groups contain most of the large dolmens, while the Western Group the less larger ones. The distance between each cluster is roughly 200 meters. The dolmens seem to bear a passage that some scholars interpret as a main street. Perhaps a ghost town? The latest investigations carried out by Professor Andrew Bauer of Stanford University showed the complexity of the site and the perfect technical execution. He identified a speculated amount of roughly 1,000 different types of structures, including an anthropomorphic funerary structure, standing stones, and circle-shaped stone fences. It's almost like a museum of megalith typology. Professor Bauer also noticed that the dolmens were built with dry stone method, which means these heavy stone structures have been masterfully erected, without any joining mortar. Another fascinating point about Hirabenakal is its prehistoric rock paintings. Till today, paintings are discovered in 11 rock shelters around the site. Compared to the abstract motifs engraved on some Neolithic megaliths discovered in Europe, those of Hirabenakal are much easier to recognize, including a long row of human figures, a horse rider holding battle axe, a row of deer, bull with long horns, peacock, and many more. Most of the paintings date back to the transitional phase from late Neolithic to early megalithic Iron Age, particularly circa 700 to 500 BC. Archaeologists draw valuable clues from these graphic representations about hunting strategy, weapons used, hunting targets, and much more of the like of the Iron Age megalithic period. One of the most astonishing features is the presence of a stone kettledrum. Positioned on a 10-meter-tall monolithic boulder in a strategic location, the hemispherical stone measures about 2 meters in diameter. Beaten by wood or rock hammer, the drum produces a sound audible even from a kilometer away. According to researchers, the kettledrum might have served the purpose of cautioning the inhabitants of the site against invaders or for inviting them for congregation of socio-religious or ritualistic significance. So, what do we know about the construction itself though? Archaeologists have noted the existence of a broad shallow water basin surrounded by hundreds of megaliths. It is believed that the basin, like in some other sites in the south part of India, was to capture and retain rainfall. They point out that elaborately constructed megaliths appear to have been deliberately placed adjacent to water basins in hilltop locations, which might have been the water source for the site's builders. Some argue that is related to rituals, and water was used during the ritual ceremony. But a classical archaeologist joke is, when you don't know what it is, it's a ritual/religious/spiritual thing. Anyways, additionally, an old quarry site discovered nearby has been postulated to be the source for the materials used to build the Hirabenical monuments. Given the number of structures, archaeologists suggest that the construction of Hirabenical funeral site must have lasted for several centuries, which suggests that the site was constantly visited and maintained. Different from some famous examples of megalith sites in Europe of the Neolithic, those in India are usually associated with iron, which compared with former ones, deploy a high degree of complexity, characterizing a unique Iron Age megalithic culture of India. By studying Hirabenical, researchers try to depict how ancient societies perceived and conceived death and prepared burials. This can be attributed to conceptual development with regard to the belief system. The diversity within the mortuary architectural forms reveals the diversity of people and cultural beliefs and traditions across South India. The large time span of Hirabenical makes it an excellent testimony of the evolution in human values in South India. Rock paintings and the stone drum give us a peek at the ancient life of the Iron Age people. Many clues also plead for the funeral use of the site. Remember the portholes mentioned before? Some researchers conclude that they are portals to periodical votive offerings. Some also argue that the anthropomorphic reflect ancestor worship. The Hirabenical megalith site has been subject to few archaeological operations, although the first dates from the early 19th century. After coming under the management of the Archaeological Survey of India in 1995, the site has seen seemingly 2 archaeological investigations. Are there any human remains discovered? Were the dolmens covered under a burial mound? How did the site cease to be used? We have so far seen no access to evidence to answer these questions. Covered with thorny bushes and slippery scattered boulders, the access to the site is not the easiest thing, with no paths, even for a goat track. According to a report published in 2010, only a dozen foreign tourists visit the site annually, even though the site has been ransacked over countless centuries by tomb robbers in search of treasure. Local grazing activities also frequently cause collapse of dolmens, but since 2021, the site has been listed on the UNESCO World Heritage Site candidate list. Let's hope that the tentative will draw more attention to this unique and spectacular testimony of an important chapter of our ancient history. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and subscribe. Also hit that bell button so that you can get notifications for our newest episodes and updates on the real and authentic ancient coins that we'll be giving away for free. In the meantime, we'll see you next time, only on Amateur Archaeology.